everyone to MPA University's Hybrid Masterclass Week 5. We have this week and next week left. I am Lauren Huffman, Director of Marketing Operations at MeetingPlay Plus Eventry, and I am so excited to be moderating another one of our sessions today. Today we are going to be chatting with Brandy Plott, Director of Marketing at MeetingPlay Plus Eventry, and Meg Fazy, owner of Face Forward, on how to market your events and build sponsorships. Brandy leads MeetingPlay Plus Eventry's marketing team and oversees the overall marketing goals and brand strategy, ensuring that they align with the company's mission and organizational strategy. Brandy practices the principles of servant leadership with an emphasis on maximizing talents and team growth by setting up team members for long-term success. Prior to joining MeetingPlay, Brandy led the marketing teams at Array, formerly Educational Measures, Amidex, and Medical Education Resources. Her unique career journey has given her the opportunity to gain cross-industry experience that includes a mix of life sciences, healthcare education, meetings and events, and technology and SaaS platforms. As a graduate of Virginia Tech, she actively participates in her local alumni organization. She currently resides in Flagstaff, Arizona, where she enjoys hiking, skiing, playing the violin, Irish fiddle style, and spending time with her husband and 2 children. Meg's career spans several markets, including hotel, CVB, industry associations, event technology, and strategic partnerships, where she has been both buyer and seller. She has worked for or with some of the biggest brands you know. Meg is well known for motivating sales and marketing teams, driving strategy, and connecting people. 6 years ago, she started Face Forward, a sponsorship management company, because she saw the need to elevate the conversations between organizers and brand partners for the mutual goal of increasing attendee engagement. More recently, Meg started Events Gig, an online talent marketplace for the event industry for freelancers and organizations to connect. Meg is an energetic speaker who has been featured as an expert in most of the major meeting and event industry publications, including MPI's The Meeting Professional and PCMA's Convene. To kick us off today, we're going to be sharing the session's poll and ask that everyone take some time to answer the questions as we welcome our speakers. Good afternoon, ladies.
Great to see everybody today. Very excited to talk about 2 of my favorite topics. So looking forward.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Brandy and Meg. I will let you take it from here. We're going to have our audience take the poll for a little bit, give it a couple minutes, and then we'll pop it on the screen for you guys to look at the results.
Great. Okay. We have a lot to talk about.
Awesome. Yeah, we sure do. We sure do. And I have to say, I'm very excited to be co-hosting this event with Meg, a rock star, and we have just had like so many great discussions behind the scenes before this even started. So want to get started and don't know if we need a couple more minutes to answer the poll or not, but I think we should just go ahead and go for it. What do you think, Meg?
Let's do it.
All right. Fabulous. All right. So, you know, the way I love to look at hybrid events, and I know the way that a lot of MPAV's customers like to look at hybrid events is really an opportunity. And that opportunity stems around basically the long-term power of retaining and growing your audience through the power of choice. And kind of let me explain a little bit what I mean, and I'm going to take you back to pre-pandemic, because I know that it's kind of hard it's hard to even think about what life was like before the pandemic. But, you know, I used to actually market events myself, but in addition, I had some events I love to attend every year. And one of those events was an event called the Alliance for Healthcare Education. And I would go like clockwork every year. I love the networking. I love the education. I love like the hallway conversations, everything that was a part of that. And then one year I had my second daughter. And from that point forward, it seemed like every other year that conference would fall on her birthday. Well, obviously, when having to make the choice between my daughter's birthday and attending the conference, it was really a no-brainer. But I would have loved to have had the opportunity to be a part of that. Like, even if it were attend virtually, I was basically trolling the Twitter feed, you know, at some points to see what was going on. I had this huge sense of FOMO. So I think that now, you know, with awesome tools, like kind of the combined power of MPAV plus Eventry, now there's this huge opportunity to connect with both audiences at one time, and, really give them a choice so that, you don't have to give up your attendee or your sponsor just because they're not able to attend in person one year. You continue to have them participate in a different way and allow them to grow. So I think that, hybrid, again, is just a huge opportunity, and really looking forward to see how the future holds, in terms of its staying power.
Yeah, Brandy, it's funny because, we talk about pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, same kind of issues with sponsorship, right? And there is such a need. There's always been a need for sponsors that want to be connected to content. They want to be connected. They want to have engagements, and they want to have lead gen. Well, never before has it been, more important now. So the options, like you said, really offer every sponsor the opportunity that they're looking for.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I completely agree with you. So today's session, as everyone can guess, is really going to be focused on two main things: sponsorship marketing and audience marketing. And so with that, I think Meg is going to kind of walk you guys through what really our key best practices are for sponsorship marketing. So I'll hand it to you, Meg.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's interesting, again, because this pre-pandemic, post-pandemic situation, I've been in the industry for 30 years, and the big question was always, is virtual going to take over in person? Well, now we know it didn't take over in person. It is a really good complement, though. And so when organizations, and I'm seeing this with every organization I work with, have an in-person, they're, going back to in-person or starting to, they all have a digital aspect to it as well. And so, when I'm looking at creating a sponsorship package, I'm looking at, creating an in-person, a digital, and or a hybrid event, hybrid sponsorship opportunities. Could we go to the next slide? So these are the 4 categories that the sponsors really want to connect to. When I'm talking to a sponsor, they'll say, I'm really looking for an opportunity to connect with my customers. So that's the engagement and networking. Or I really want to be seen as that thought leader, that expert in the industry. I want a keynote. I want a session. That's content. Some of them are really just interested in, I want to be part of the venue, and whether that venue is physical or digital, it doesn't matter. That they're looking to be part of that venue and offer opportunities at the venue. So that could be a branding opportunity, all kinds of things. And then of course there's branding. Some clients will say, I just really want branding. I have product awareness or service awareness. I just need to kind of show up. And so, that's where we'll talk about branding. And next slide. So one of the things I like to talk to people about is how to create, again, this post-pandemic world is really interesting for sponsors because, it's interesting for everybody, organizers as well. But when you're looking at whether, organizers are saying to me, Meg, we're in person now. And of course, we're going to have a digital aspect, a pretty big, robust digital component as well. But we don't know if we're going to have to go completely digital, or will we be able to have a hybrid event? And so when I'm creating prospectuses, I'm asked quite often to kind of create a couple different options. And, the one option can be if they're focusing on an in-person event and they have a digital component, and the digital component can be anything from a content depository where they're just like putting content in the site and leaving it there, or, really robust with an exhibit hall and keynotes being streamed and breakouts and all of that. So when I look at it, I look at how I can easily create opportunities in the in-person environment that I can, hate the word, but pivot to a digital or pivot to a hybrid. And that's what this is. So I take the 4 categories. And if you look at, these are just some examples. So if you look at, the venue, Name badge sponsor for in-person. What would that look like for digital? Okay, it would look like a digital business card. What would it look for a hybrid? It would look like contact sharing app. So the mobile app, we're going to talk about that in a little bit, but that comes into play quite often in the hybrid. And I think matching the platform with the mobile app is probably one of the best hybrid opportunities creating the best hybrid opportunities.
Absolutely. And I love that you bring up the mobile app, because in addition to the virtual platform, I think, kind of having a unified virtual platform and a mobile app that's on site, gives sponsors the opportunity for a very, very consistent message across the board, but to a much, much bigger audience. And just some examples, like on your app, you can have an exhibitor list, you can have pre-roll ads, you can have banners, you can have all these different ways, and it's very, very flexible. I mean, I would say and encourage all of the viewers here to think about the flexibility and what your sponsors need, and that will help you determine what kind of tech you're going to need depending on that tech provider or partner's level of customization with the app. So I think there are lots of opportunities just to get that message out there to an even greater audience. And the other thing is, with the app and the virtual platform, they really enable people like on-site sponsors to connect with virtual attendees, or vice versa.
That's what I was just going to say.
Yeah, so there's lots of different ways that kind of we can create that sponsor exhibitor connection with the audience.
So one of the best ways to use a mobile app is and when you have a digital platform as well, is gamification when it's a hybrid event. I mean, it's great when it's just digital as well, but that's a great tool to use when it's a hybrid, because both the in-person and the digital audience can participate. And you can get the in-person attendee to go online, and you can get the online audience to participate in a live stream, and so there's a lot of connection, because really what hybrid means is that you have two different audiences at the same time at the same event.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And, connecting that audience is key, but, also, we'll get into this more with kind of the audience marketing, providing something, special is key as well.
Sure.
So yeah, with that, I think any other points you want to share with the audience about?
No, I mean, there's always a million things you can do, and there's no shortage of ideas in sponsorship. That's not the challenge. The challenge is really knowing your audience, knowing the culture of your event, and creating opportunities that are going to obviously drive the event revenue, but also drive ROI and value for your sponsors. But at the end of the day, it really needs to offer value to your attendees.
Right.
That's Absolutely. The goal. And then here, just as far as pricing, because everyone always says, I don't know how to I never know how to price, digital or online or hybrid sponsorships. So here are the 4 aspects that I look at. Again, who is the audience? What are their capabilities? What are the hard costs? Because there are hard costs. What is perceived value? And this is something that I think is overlooked 95% of the time. And what I mean by that is, like, I sold for an organization where every sponsor, all they wanted was branding. They wanted banners everywhere. That's what they saw as value. And then I'll go to another conference and I can't give away a banner. So know your audience and know what the perceived value of a sponsorship is. And then I always say, like, the rule of thumb is 50 to 75% of what you would charge in person, you would charge for your digital sponsorship.
That's a really good rule of thumb. I love that. Would you say that like, depending on what the goal is, like, they have a different expectation on pricing?
Oh, sure. Yeah. And I think that's, again, knowing your audience and perceived value. Those two things have to come together.
Yeah.
To give you the right price, because some organizations, they their level of expectation is higher than they should be. And you
Yeah.
have to you really have to level set them.
Yeah. And do you think that it all depends on like what kind of tech might be available, or, is that at all like a factor in what sponsorship packages you would provide?
Absolutely. So, I mean, one of the reasons why I started actually talking to MeetingPlay is because your platform offered a lot of sponsorship opportunities. And so that absolutely goes in play, because if you're working with a platform that doesn't offer many opportunities, that's going to influence the price, right? Because that's a supply and demand issue. And then also the creativity, and it can also be, well, I'm not really interested in buying that. You're not offering me enough. You're not offering me the right sponsorship. So the platform really, and I'll say the platform and the mobile app, I'm a big fan of the two combined, as far as from a sponsorship experience, as well as from the attendee experience, because of the sponsorship.
That makes complete sense.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Meg. That was just an awesome overview of
There's
some of
a
the
lot.
key things. Yeah, but it's all good stuff. I mean, like definitely, I think our audience is looking for some real best practices from someone who does this every day, and that's you. So much.
And I do work I do most of my business is corporate, tier 1, tier 2. So when I'm speaking, those are the groups that I'm speaking about.
Fabulous. Well, I think we're going to kind of turn over things to like kind of the next section here. And so we're start talking about marketing to the audience. And, so I love to share best practices. And, we kind of came up with some of these best practices regarding audience marketing for your hybrid event, based on some of the things. When I look back, I used to market events myself about 10 years ago. And I think about all the things I wish I had known along the way. And so that's kind of where we came to play and brought some of these opportunities to light. But to the audience today, I would encourage you to please put your best practices in the chat, because this is definitely a shared learning tool. We're all here together, and we really want to hear what your best practices are, so that we can have a conversation and kind of share that with the rest of the audience members today. So that being said, the first thing, and probably the most obvious thing we need to talk about today, is your event marketing website. And one thing I will emphasize is communication is so key. And, in the events industry here, we've been talking, using that word hybrid events for, I'd say, at least a year or more now, talking about the future and how that's all going to come together. But you need to keep in mind, when you build your marketing website for your hybrid event, your audience may not be as familiar with that term. When you use the word hybrid, they might be thinking you're talking about buying a car. I doubt it, but that's another term, the use of the word hybrid. So I think like clarity and what you're offering your audience, right from the get-go on your homepage is key. And I love to use examples. And one example that I found that is really, really good is what Inbound, HubSpot's conference that's every year, it's going to be hybrid this year. They're basically spelling out, you can attend in person, you can attend digitally, global. I love the word global here. They're not necessarily focusing on that word hybrid, but they're communicating that there are options, again, giving a choice to attendees. And I think that's really a critical thing. All right. So the next thing I think that is really critical, it doesn't matter if your audience is attending on site, for the first time in 2 years, or if they're attending virtually. It's important to give them a hook. You've got to give your audience something special that is really going to drive the experience and drive like their interest in participating in that way. So I don't think that you can ignore either audience. You've got to make both of them feel special. And then in addition, sponsors also, need something to make them feel special. So Meg is going to give some awesome examples about like just some different things that we can do to get that hook and make our audience like decide to click and sign up for the event.
Yeah, one of the things that I really think people are looking for more now prior to the event is really connection. Like when I'm getting ready to go to a conference. I've been to 6 conferences this year. And before I go to each one of them, I want to know who else is going. And so I'm looking, is there a mobile app that I can join early? And then once there's connection there, and that's really a draw for me. So now I can see who else is going, but I want that 2-3 months in advance, not just, a week in advance. So I think the mobile app is a great way to extend, or get people excited and to start, inviting different people. There's actually a really cool company called Ingo that I actually use a lot that connects with your LinkedIn. You give them approval, of course, and we'll send out an email say I'm going somewhere, and they say, can I have approval to use your LinkedIn? I'll say yes, and they'll send out a message to LinkedIn saying, hey, I'm going to this event. If you'd like to join me, here's the link. And so it starts to build attendance, right? And drives your audience really well. It's such a great tool, but that's something that is kind of cool. People are utilizing LinkedIn as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the other thing is, attendees love to create meetups, and they love to make plans, before they either go on site or attend virtually. And so having a kind of a connected platform is a great way to ensure that your attendees can go ahead and start to set those things up and get excited, whether they're going to meet someone in person or meet somebody online. It just gives more of an opportunity to do so. And I think it builds excitement for your event. And again, it's all about longevity, right? You want to keep bringing these people back year over year. So you've got to make sure that you're taking care of them on both ends, and that they have an awesome experience.
It's not just about the right? You want to have conversation continue.
Yeah.
I sat in a great content, I sat in a great breakout. Did you hear this person speak? No, I didn't. Oh, it's on demand. Just keep that conversation going as long as you can. And that helps drive attendance for next year as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So next, we're going to talk a little bit about our audience targeting, because I think with a hybrid event, you have to think about audience targeting in a little bit different way than you would think of it with either an in-person or a virtual event audience. So what I like to recommend is like when you think about your marketing funnel. So you've got your top of funnel kind of customers and leads. You've got your middle of funnel customer leads, and then you've got those bottom of funnel customers and leads. When you're thinking about kind of those 3 different audiences, think about with the virtual audience, those tofu and mofu leads, are just kind of getting to know your event. They're getting to know your company. So when you start targeting in your initial promotions, what I like to recommend is target those tofu and mofu audience members as for the virtual component, but don't rule out the on-site component. I'm just saying focus on the things that people like about virtual. And then on the opposite end of things, you've got that audience member that you need, you want there in person because you want to have that one-on-one conversation with them, and then also with sponsors. So those are the audience members that you want to target first as an on-site attendee. But the trick is once they target initial promotions based on their funnel stage, but I like to say retarget based on their clicks. And what that means is whatever they're interested in and they end up clicking on, or they end up spending more time on, then if you can't get them to convert and sign up for your event, on that initial promotion, then those are the things you kind of want to hone in on and customize a little bit for those audiences so that you end up getting them signing up on the things that they're interested in most. And I think that's a really, really effective way of targeting an audience promotion. And even thinking about a hybrid event, that you've got your audience members that, are just kind of getting to know you, they might be attending your event for the first time ever. So again, it's all about like making sure that both audiences have a good experience, because those people on the virtual side are going to eventually, hopefully, be, they're going to be a BOFU opportunity, and they're going to be a BOFU customer. So those are just some different things to think about when you're targeting your audience that I think are really, really important, and good things to kind of highlight and think about as you
Brandy,
start.
that's a great thing, aspect to point out, because really the top and middle, many times they may just be dipping their toe right in the conference and wanting to make sure that it's the right content and the right speakers and the right people who are going. That's the same with sponsors. They sometimes just want to dip their toe in and see if it's the right environment for them. So that's a great aspect. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So then let's talk a little bit about audience trust, and, let's go back to your event marketing website. These are some other just like kind of key tidbits I want to share with you today. And that's make sure you have a contingency plan. And that's really about kind of gaining your audience's trust. So, it's been such a pendulum back and forth. One day everything's great. We're going back to live. The next day, something big happens in the news. So you've got to start to kind of think about those things and communicate even more with your audience, so you have some sort of contingency plan. And I love how HubSpot, like on here, offers up a contingency plan that, hey, if you can't make it, then you can attend. You can give your ticket to somebody else. That doesn't have to be the plan. The plan could be, hey, we'll refund you, and you can attend virtually. We'll refund you like the difference in cost so that you can be a virtual attendee. Because again, you want to give them a choice and you want to build their trust. And the reason you want to do that is so that you can keep them year after year. And if they're one of those top of funnel leads, they'll eventually become a customer. So that's how I think that you just kind of keep building on that communication plan, but make it very visible so that there's no question. You've already thought about all the questions that they might have, and then you've put them in a place. You put the answers in a place where it's easily accessible for your audience. So
yeah, that's one of the first questions I get from a sponsor is, what is a contingency plan?
Yeah.
What happens if I'm an in-person sponsor? Do I get moved to the virtual? If I do, what does that look like? Is there a refund? All of that is really important right now.
Yeah. And with the right tech partner, if you plan in advance with your tech partner, then, you'll be able to easily, switch attendees, with like Eventree's Reg to back from a on-site attendee to a virtual attendee, and vice versa. So as long as you're, making it easy for people to participate either way, I mean, that's really the ticket and the key, I think.
Really agree.
There. So.
And people are worried, like from a sponsorship perspective, they're worried about spending a lot of money for an in-person event and then it not happening and losing all that money.
Yeah.
And so there has to be a policy. What I'm seeing, just best practice or trending, what I'm seeing is that organizations are, if they're going from in-person and having to move everybody to digital, it is a 50% refund.
That's really, really good.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing with most groups.
Interesting. And then have you ever, what have you been seeing if like maybe the virtual component is free and maybe the on-site, is paid? Do they still how do they do that? Just refund the whole thing, or?
They do. They refund the registration for attendees.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. What I have challenges mostly with is when we have a robust in-person event and not a robust platform to fall back on. And that is a challenge. So if one of my clients is working with a platform company that doesn't have a lot of capabilities, that's when we run into trouble.
Yeah, lesson learned. Build your contingency plan into your contract with your tech provider in advance, because that's going to, save you if something happens. So that's like, I guess, big advice of the day there.
Yeah, because we all know event organizers have plan A, plan B, plan C.
Yeah. But having it built in, I think, into your contract with your tech partner just helps you to pivot easily. I hate that word pivot,
No,
but
it's true.
to be agile. That's the real key. You got to stay agile, and that helps you to be agile versus, okay, now what are we going to do? So
Right.
I think those are
Well,
super-
imagine the worry that takes off your shoulders as an event planner.
absolutely.
Like, I know, okay, if we have to go that way, I know I've got my platform partner that can handle it.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the beauty of hybrid again, is that you've already got your virtual platform set up. So it's not very hard to, move
Right.
people between one or the other. So, that's again how hybrid like helps you with longevity.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So next slide, please. So a couple other just key like best practices. What I have learned, the hard way is that you've really got to leverage your speakers' influence and then also your sponsor influence. So a key thing to do and think about planning is just making sure that you've created all those assets that they can share to help promote your event in advance. And, one of the stories that I like to tell is back in the day when I was kind of helping market medical conferences for iMedics, I had this like speaker that was over in Europe, and we created all these assets for him. But the one thing we didn't do is create an email, like having him invite all his like personal contacts, and that like learning, like once we started doing that, he was actually able to bring in like thousands of additional attendees, just by the power of his influence alone. So if you can think about all the ways that your presenters and your sponsors might be able to help you extend your reach on your promotions and have more influence, then that's something to definitely make sure that you do in advance and just kind of build that into your marketing plan. I think one thing I would like to just point out is that, like, we spend so much time on our sessions, our tech, and everything else, but then a lot of times, the marketing plan for your event is like one of the like afterthoughts. And so it's really important to think about these things ahead of time.
So one of the things that I would from a sponsorship perspective offer up to help that situation would be to not only have passes as part of your prospectus for your sponsors, but also include customer passes. So then you can reach out to your customers and invite them, and then it's broadening that audience.
Absolutely. All right. So last best practice of the day, actually next to last, I lied. There's two more. Another is to make sure that you're leveraging testimonials. Quotes and testimonials will take things a long way. People want to know what other people thought about your event before they sign up. So make sure on your event marketing website that you're leaving room to put event testimonials in a really prominent place. And I know if you have a flexible kind of platform for event marketing, there's a lot you can do with it. So think about that, and think about the connection between your website, your reg, all those things. I think that's something that MPAV customers are really, really appreciating that we can kind of do well and help them with. All right.
Can I add just to add demographics as well? Sponsors really want and need the demographic information.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that even on events that we're as MPAV are considering, participating in and sponsoring in, that's like the first thing we ask, like,
sure,
the audience, who's going to be attending? Do you have a list, and
right.
Things like that. So,
and if they don't, people go to the website for the year before and they can see who's sponsored, and they get an idea. But yeah, the demographics are really important. Like, are they the decision makers? Are they, which industry segment do they come from? Like, all of that is really crucial. And sometimes I see event organizers just kind of like, oh, throw the demographics together, and it can sell a sponsorship.
Very, very sage advice there. Very sage advice. That's something, I think maybe a lot of people don't necessarily focus on. So yeah. Totally agree with you, Meg. All right. Last but not least, if you've got someone on the fence, they're like on your website and, they're not sure, they're thinking about it. My advice is to try using an exit pop-up. And the reason for that is, like, this is just an example of how another conference, Social Media Marketing World, does this so well. if you are on their website and you're about to leave, then this lovely exit pop-up comes up with a video, and it has like interviews of people like giving all the great things about how the event helped them with their networking, how many people they've met. And having attended myself, that's absolutely true. But someone that may not have attended before, they don't know. The first time, they don't know. So, and believe it or not, this little exit pop-up can actually increase your event registration and the conversions for that by about 30%. So that's a huge number to think about. How many more attendees could you capture by doing this one thing? And
there's sponsorship opportunities.
Absolutely. Yeah, another sponsorship opportunity. So yeah, that's all really good. People want to know, and this just helps create the FOMO. Oh, maybe I shouldn't, maybe I shouldn't like stop thinking about it. I've got to go ahead and sign up now. So, that's a key thing to think about. One other thing that we didn't really touch on a whole lot, but I think that there's definitely videos are the way to go if you're going to be showing like testimonials. Show footage of your event from on site, virtual. Show like all the great things that have happened, so that no matter whether they're thinking about on site or they're thinking about virtual, like they're still creating that FOMO. Awesome. All right. And then next slide. So this is kind of a big topic of debate. And actually, Meg and I had a really great conversation yesterday. And so we're going to kind of give you two different perspectives. I would say that, in today's climate, Meg's might actually be the more sage one. But however, as things kind of move back into live, and hybrid in the future, when is the best time to start marketing next year's event? Well, I'd be curious. I'd love to hear in the chat, like just a couple people, give them a second to just give a guess. And then we can kind of debate on it a little bit. Anybody have any thoughts? All right. Well, we'll just kind of move on. So my advice, is when your attendees and your audience and your sponsors are having a great time at your event this year, that is like a very critical and key time to start marketing your hybrid event for next year. And so so let's talk about your virtual attendees. The way that you can do that is through push notifications. You can go ahead and send them, a discount code to sign up for next year, to prompt them to go ahead and take action. Or you can use the same type of push notification, for live attendees on your mobile app. So you're really just creating like, the enticement. And if you tier your pricing so that they get the lowest like rate by signing up, then that might like kind of push them over the edge. So you're already like thinking about, again, the longevity of your event and keeping those attendees year after year. So I said perspective on that though.
Well, and I said I totally agree with you in theory. I mean, in theory, and again, pre-pandemic world, that absolutely was the best way. In fact, part of what services I offer in sponsorship management is to go on site and do a re-sign for sponsorships, right? So get them right on the show floor for next year. That's not happening right now, because too many sponsors are, we're still not sure what's going to happen. There's still not a sense of security on, whether a live event is going to happen, whether what it's going to look like. Is it going to be virtual? Is it going to be hybrid? Is it going to be just in person? There's not a lot of confidence in that. So that's that we differ a little bit. Like I agree with you 100% of Brandy in theory, but I would say practically right now, no, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. And it may be that it's a little bit of a different situation between, sponsors being a little bit more hesitant because, in general, sponsors are going to need to be putting out, significantly more money, and so they're not sure. Attendees, I think is a little bit different. And especially if you're offering, again, the choice, and you're making it clear what your contingency plan is and that there's some flexibility. And that's really the key. Then I believe that if I were attending an event and we're having, a great time, as long as I had that kind of confidence that, there was a different way to pivot and,
absolutely. As an attendee, that makes 100% because you can put all the content that you were going to have in person, you can put online. You can have similar engagement. You can have all of that. It's just harder for a sponsor.
Yeah.
The dollar amount is, the investment is much higher.
Absolutely. So I think definitely keeping the conversation alive. I saw one of the attendees said, just keep it going. So, I think definitely having on-demand content and maybe even having on-demand content, that only gets unlocked like after the event, or just different ways that you could potentially, keep the conversation going, keeping the platform open so that live attendees might actually, meet some of the virtual attendees, that type of thing. I think those are all really great ways, but I would love some other insights from the audience here on what you think, what you've done to kind of keep the conversation about the event going after the fact. Yeah. So that was pretty much the last of, I think, what we had to touch on today. We really want to make sure we're leaving lots of times for questions and love to hear insights from everybody as well. So awesome.
That was great, guys. And I just see the chat going off now. So I'll touch on the answers to your last question too, Brandy, about what's the best time to start marketing next year's event. And it looks like everyone's like right now, as fast as you can. And so
they're all attendees. They're all event organizers.
Exactly. And so I think from the people who are actually, putting the money down, they're like, well,
yeah, right.
So I exactly. But I thought that was really fun because from me coming from a marketing background, you have to seize that audience a bit.
Absolutely.
You've already had them there; they're captive, so it makes sense to do it
now.
But the reality
I have I go on property and I re-sign. That's what I do on top of create and then sell, and then I get them to re-sign. And this year, it's just not happening.
Yeah. It's crazy how the past 2 years has kind of ebbed and flowed. So I'm excited to see what the rest of this year brings, and hopefully we start to be able to seize the moment a little bit more from a
feel a little
standpoint.
bit more comfortable.
Exactly. Well, we have a ton of questions, so I'm super excited to keep this conversation going. I'm just going to kind of go down the line. By the way, for the audience, if you go in the Q&A tab, you have the opportunity to vote on questions. So if you haven't asked Q&A or haven't used this before, you just click on the vote and it will bring it up to the top. So that way, if you want to hit it in this session, we'll hit it now. But if not, and if we don't get to your question, we also have hallway chatter open for 30 minutes after this, where our presenters, myself, some people from MeetingPlay will be in there to answer the rest of your questions. So that's just something to note. I will go to our top voted question from Alan that says, and this one's more for you, Meg, what sort of items do you tend to include in a virtual sponsorship package?
Oh, there's so much. So I'm just, it's hard to list them all. But what I try to do is when I'm creating a prospectus, I try not to focus on just throwing items in and look at it more strategically and more holistically. What can I create to give a sponsor the most touch points with their customer? Or what opportunities can we create to give them thought leadership or the ability to speak or be on a panel or, so it's easy. Like I said, I could, sponsor this pen but there's zero value in that, right? Mm-hmm. It's really about driving the right value and not just kind of coming up with ideas. The platform offers so many great ideas, but again, I really do most of my cool, kind of creative opportunities when I can use a mobile app and a platform. And I know I've said that a couple times, but to me, it's such a great experience for the sponsor and the attendee that I can't really emphasize it as much, but you could do some cool gamification. And when people say gamification, they're like, people have to go to my booth and my virtual booth, and they don't get it. There's some really cool things you can do with gamifications where you're connecting the in-person with the virtual audience, and you're connecting your attendee with content in the virtual as well as in person. There's so much crossover, being able to utilize those two.
Do you ever create anything called something like the Cadillac package? And I just use that term because that's like, if I were thinking about like the top package, does it include both? Does it include like,
Yeah, oh,
on-site? It
absolutely.
includes basically everything. It's all
Yeah, so it
comprehensive.
really, how it depends on how I create the package, whether it's like an in-person separate from a digital, which I very rarely do, by the way.
Got it.
Almost all of them can include both. And how it's determined is by level on what you get, right? Yeah. So that's how you do it. So I think it's smart to include virtual into every prospectus. If you're having a virtual platform, there's no reason that it shouldn't go right into your prospectus.
Awesome.
That's a good question though, Brandy, because a lot of people ask me that question.
Yeah.
They think that because it's a different opportunity or a different audience, it should be different, but it really can be. I do separate it out as a virtual. I call it virtual opportunities or digital opportunities, and I list them.
Got it. Yeah.
That actually hit one of our other questions too. Let me find it. It's not at the top, so give me 1 second. One of them was, how hard is it to pivot? And I know we hate this word, but how hard is it to pivot a sponsorship package from a live event to a hybrid event? Is it easy, or is it?
You know what? It depends. That's what I was saying. Like, it really depends on the event organizer's platform. So if the event organizer is working with a platform that has capabilities, it's not hard at all. Even from a sponsorship. So I can move those. I can give them, fairly similar opportunities in virtual, but the platform has to have the capabilities, and the organizer has to be ready and know what they are and have that conversation with their platform company just in case. And then we move it. We can't move everything, right? We can't, it's not always apples to apples. Sometimes it's better in digital and sometimes it's better in person. It really just depends on the opportunity.
Have you found, this is just out of curiosity, like I know a lot of sponsorships include like a sponsored happy hour or dinner or something like that. And from a live perspective, I feel like that's so much fun and brings a lot of value. Do you find that it's still successful for a happy hour in a virtual platform?
Yeah, here's my story about virtual happy hours. When the pandemic hit, we all had happy hours, right? I was on like a happy hour every single night. And so like the first 3 months, everyone did happy hours, even, all their conferences, everything. And then it started to like, okay, we're done. We're done sitting in front of a laptop all day long, and I couldn't sell it. I couldn't give them away for about 4 or 5 months. And then when we realized this was not going away right away, they started back up. So you really need to kind of know what the culture or what the environment is and what's happening in the world, right? I know that sounds crazy because it's just sponsorship, but you really do. You need to know what the appetite is and what people are looking for. So I've done happy hours where we have sent mocktails to, people, in person as well as at home and we would put them in sites. And so we would have the in-person in a room, right? So it's almost like a microsite room. So they would go and pick whatever category they wanted to talk about, and they would bring their cocktail and they'd be in a room or an area just on the show floor or where the open space would be. And then there'd be screens with people online and that were interested in the same topic, and they would have their mocktails. And so you're creating
Yeah, that is super fun.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
and from a marketing perspective, that's a lot of promo.
It is. And you keep it small enough where you really can have those conversations and meet new people. You don't want 50 people in a microsite. You want 10.
Be way too many.
Yeah. I think also I wonder, I always wonder if there's like a limit to what the happy hour size should be if it's virtual, because once you get like 100 people, I mean, I think like the smaller and more intimate, in those cases, almost the better. And I've seen like happy hour rooms like get filled. So like you can actually, it kind of creates some FOMO. So like if you want a spot in this happy hour room, then you got to sign up now. this many spots are left, those types of things.
Mhm.
I think are really good ways to like encourage people to join them.
And I think
I've seen it done in the live event space too. Like you have an opportunity to sign up, and then once the sign up's done, then you're like, oh man, I sure wish I had signed up for that. I'd love to have those people,
Well, and I think, it's interesting because the size makes a difference, right?
Yeah.
Because you want people to connect. And I when we're creating happy hours like this, and we depending on the size, we may do 10, 20, 30, 40, happy hours. Some of those topics are business, who wants to talk about this technology, who wants to talk about whatever, but some of them are fun. Like who wants to talk about travel, who wants to talk about their dog, who wants to, and so, because that way you kind of get everybody. Because sometimes at the end of the day, someone's like, I don't want to talk about the technology.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. I've seen like running happy hours, like all the people that want to talk about running or want to do like a triathlon.
Right. Exactly.
Crazy.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
that's great.
Awesome.
Well, next, one of our second most popular question. This one's for Brandy. How can you prevent attendee attrition through marketing?
Well, I think there's, that's a great question. And I think it depends a little bit on, whether you're talking about virtual attrition or whether you're talking about live attendee attrition. I mean, I would say that, live attendee attrition, if you've got a hybrid event, can be prevented completely by the communication and offering a virtual pass. They're still going to participate. They may not go in person. Now, when you've got like food and beverage, F&B, and you've got like hotel room, that you've got to fill, then that's something to definitely think about. I would also say, like, so on the virtual side, constant communication. And then combining the two, if you've got something special, like hold something back, make that announcement about that something special a little bit toward the end, in the midst of the communication. Like I know I saw an event that like kind of getting toward the end, almost to like toward the time that people were supposed to register, they're like, Michelle Obama is going to be there, and like, if you're like a mom that's really excited about like kids like eating healthy and like all that she did for school lunches, like I'm like, I'd like to meet Michelle Obama. I'm gonna maybe not think about not going now because I want to meet Michelle Obama. So there's all kinds of ways, but I would say just save a little something special toward the end, even if you've got it confirmed, and like and throw it out there like in like little increments so that you've always got something people are going to be coming back for and interested in.
Yeah, I really agree with that. That has worked on me as like just a person. Is if it's like a live performance of someone I really like, and they've kind of like kept like they've hinted at it, or they revealed it a week away from the event. I think that's actually been very successful, just to get people right at the end there. And then I know someone mentioned in the chat as well, and I know you mentioned this also in your presentation, Brandy, is pricing before the event and how you manipulate that to kind of get people, either you make the price go up at the end, meaning people are more willing to register and come because they've paid a good price, versus those whenever you come to the event and you're registering a week ahead of the time and it's more expensive. I guess that's more so just overall like getting people to the event, but I feel like if you pay for it, you have a lot less attrition.
Yeah.
I really do.
Absolutely.
Versus like a webinar that's free. And, and because if it's hitting in the middle of your work day, if it's something that it's in the evening and now you have to go to football practice with your kids, it's, I guess it just depends on the situation. And if
even if it's $50, you should charge for registration.
Yeah. I mean, there's a whole like argument and mantra out there that, something even worth just a little bit like seems more attractive than something that's free. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, because people believe, oh, well, if I'm having to pay a little bit for it, there must be something really great about it, and that may not necessarily be the case. Let's hope that it is, but
and who doesn't love a good early bird?
Yeah. I feel like that's psychology, psychology. So.
Well, we have a ton more, so we're definitely going to have to hit some of these in hallway chatter, but we have some time to hit a couple more in this session. I'm going to skip down to one that Courtney put through, and this is for both, but this is also something that you can take on, Meg, is how can machine learning boost sponsorship ROI?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
How can machine learning boost sponsorship ROI?
Okay, so first of all, I love machine learning. This is like, I can't even believe I forgot to bring this up. This is like my favorite new thing in sponsorship, I have to tell you. Because here's the thing. In the last 2 years, so let me back up. Pre-pandemic, the only way that a sponsor would have any kind of true ROI is from their lead gen, right? Their lead device. That's the only ROI they were really able to have. And that was okay because that's what we had. And then here comes digital. And they're like, click-throughs, who saw, like 8 million different opportunities for ROI. And the data that you can get from digital is amazing, right? And so now people are used to that data and they're going back to in person and they want the data, right? So how are they going to get it? And, how is this changing how we look and treat the in-person event and not just have these really cool things for digital? But so that's my little setup. So the machine learning is so cool. And I'm not a tech person, so bear with me if I explain this incorrectly. But if I'm walking through a floor and I've just gone to see, Coca-Cola and I've seen Pepsi and, I've gone to a session on Mountain Dew, I would get a ping on my, and again, tell me if I'm wrong about this, but I would get a ping on my mobile app saying, hey, Meg, you just saw all these, you visited all these areas. Here's the next 3 places I think you should go. Mm-hmm. And it's much like Netflix. When you watch Netflix and then you scroll down the next time and you're like, because you watched Bridgerton, not that I have.
Yep.
It's coming back out tomorrow, by the way.
I know. Here are some suggestions. It's so great. And it's not just great for the attendee, it's great for the sponsor because now they are getting targeted people coming to their, right? So if I'm interested in all of these things and I'm being told, oh, go see Meg in, booth 505. When I get there, like I want to be there. I clearly am interested in what Meg is selling. So it's great for a sponsor. Yeah. So big fan of machine learning.
I think machine learning, it really also works very well for just keeping attendees engaged. I mean, obviously people might be interested in multiple things and it really helps like fine tune where people will want to go next. And I think there's a lot of confusion out there between, okay, what's matchmaking, versus what is machine learning. And I think really the difference in the two is that the machine adapts to what the person is doing next and where they're going next and serves up, very personalized, specific things, for that person. And, so I think that's like the difference between machine learning and really just kind of a matchmaking algorithm. Both have really great uses. I think, it depends on what kind of event, what the stakes are of your event and, your price point, because, in full transparency, machine learning is a fabulous tool, but it's not the cheapest tool. We're all hoping it'll be like televisions and the price will go down as time goes on. But
it is interesting because you're to your point of it's different than matchmaking. Yeah. Because how many times do people sign up for one thing and then they end up going to another? So people like I may, again, to my soda reference, I may have signed up and said, I'm a tea drinker. I like coffee. And then I'm at the show and I'm going to all these soda places. Mm-hmm. So clearly my behavior is not matching what I, originally put in, which happens all the time. And so this is, I just love the machine learning aspect. I think it's really cool and it's going to just evolve into really great things.
And it also makes it easy. Like, I feel like what happened when we had all of this tech come in, or you go to a trade show and it's gigantic and you're like, where do I even start? Because I don't need to talk to all these people.
Right.
I need to talk to like 20 of them to really get what I want. This makes it easy for you.
When I actually heard Joe, your present speak on a session, and I was like, oh, I've never heard about this. I have to contact them. And that's how the conversation started with meetings.
Oh, that's so funny. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, machine learning, I think, is kind of, I hope it's going to be part of the new normal. I think it does, like Brandy said, depend on the event, the size, what's at stake.
Yeah.
But it's what people expect now. People experience it when they listen to Spotify and Netflix and any kind of digital type of situation like that. So you got to keep with the times.
Yeah, it's perfect. It's really great.
Awesome.
I'm so glad someone asked me about that.
I know, and I saw it in there, and I was like, "Oh, I gotta ask Meg that."
Yeah.
Well, I want to end with the results of our poll and just kind of get the ending kind of thoughts. I'm going to display them now. Are you guys able to see on your end?
No,
I cannot.
I'll read it out. The majority for what is your goal of hosting a hybrid event is, of all the things, people say all of the above. So that's reaching new audiences, increasing overall attendance, boosting audience engagement, providing cross-platform networking, more opportunities for sponsors and partners. The majority of people say all of the above, but a close second is boosting audience engagement. So that's kind of what we talked about this entire time. Yeah. And then third is reaching new audiences, which I thought was really interesting. I mean, I think that's the one of the major draws of hybrid to begin with is that you can, expand to a larger audience. But I'm glad people are thinking of all of the things versus just one.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. It's really good insight into kind of where everybody's head's at right now. So I love that people were willing to take the poll and share that information.
I don't know if someone asked about machine learning. I'm still
I know. The Q&A. We also have, I think we have a lot more Q&A. So we are out of time here, but we're headed right over to Hallway Chatter where we will answer the rest of these questions. Meg will be there, Brandy will be there, I'll be there. So if you have the time after this session, please join us. All you have to do is click over in Hallway Chatter. You can come on camera and talk with our speakers if you want to, and if not, you can just be in the chat and just kind of listen to us chat more on all of these great topics. But otherwise, ladies, thank you so much for this fabulous presentation. You guys nailed it. It was great information. And in the meantime, we have one session left. I can't believe I'm saying that. One session left, 1 week. And next week we'll be with Joe Schwinger and Jen Amen from Databricks to talk about all of the top lessons learned in hybrid.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Lauren. Thank you, Meg. It's been a
thank you both for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right, guys.
Talk soon. We'll see you over at Hallway Chatter. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thanks, everyone.